These are some of the most painfully crowded surf destinations on the planet. These are all places where you either just have to get stuck in, get amongst the crowd, get your hassle on, or just not go at all. This is the big one really. It seems like every time you go on social media these days, you see a clip of something crazy going on in Bali. So yeah, Balinese lineups are obviously really crowded. It's very well known that this is the case. It's such a highly sought after surf destination. Places like Ulus, Canggu, Keramis, if you know the name and you see coverage of it a lot, it's going to be crowded anywhere in the world. And you know, on a good day at Uluwatu, there's 100 to 200 people in the lineup, which is freaking mental. On bad days, there's obviously way less, but the waves aren't as good. So pumping Ulus, unless it's really big, it's going to be absolutely rammed. Same with all the Bukit waves, Padang, Bingin, really like condensed lineups as well, with like dozens and dozens of people, 30, 40, 50, 60 people out, all just like in one takeoff zone, which is really gnarly. Obviously when the waves like pumping through all day long, there's a lot of waves, so even in the crowd you can get waves still, which I guess is the beauty of it. Whereas places like Keramis, again, it's kind of a condensed lineup, only sort of one takeoff spot. It's not a particularly long wave, so that's a really crowded wave. Canggu, again, really packed. Like the peak and the reefs either side of it on Echo Beach. You know, Old Man's down the beach as well. All absolutely insanely crowded. And these are all spots, it's just like what everyone wants. So in Bali and like in most places in the world, you can actually go surfing by yourself every day if you wanted to, if you just go outside of the main spots, and you might sacrifice a bit of quality, but there's so many like just random anonymous beach breaks that you could go and surf by yourself if you really wanted to. But we all kind of just default to where everyone's surfing, and I don't know, from my perspective, it's better to sacrifice a little bit of quality sometimes and just, you know, get off the beaten track and go surf by yourself. So Australia offers a staggering variety of waves, and like Hawaii, surfing is very deeply embedded into Australian culture. Most Australians live by the coast, and surfing is a really huge sport there. On top of that, you've got a really amazing climate. You've got such a variety of amazing waves right on big population centres, so it's no surprise really that you've got a lot of people in the lineups. Some of the most notoriously crowded spots are obviously places like Snapper and the Super Bank. I've spoken about it many times before in videos. It's just ridiculously crowded in those places, but also Lennox Head, the Pass in Byron Bay, any of those famous right points, Noosa Heads, all of those places, if they're really good, they're just like crowded on another level of like just madness. I remember the first time I ever surfed it, the points in Noosa, like just landed in Australia. There was like a huge cyclone swell, and I just could not believe the volume of people. It was just like every wave that came through, 5, 6, 7 people paddling for the same wave. Usually like if the person on the inside would take off, and then 3 or 4 people would also catch the wave and stand up and then look back, and if they could see that that person could somewhat surf, they would kick off most of the time. Or if you looked like off kilter and you looked a bit dodged, then you'd just get burnt ruthlessly. I've always thought in those kind of lineups, if you just go and surf all day and try and be patient, you're gonna get some waves over the course of the day. But it's more like if you want to go for a quick surf before work and get a few waves in, it's pretty hard. So yeah, amazing waves throughout Australia, but deep surfing culture, lots of relatively easy to surf spots, lots of people, very crowded. So while the waves are really fun and it's very consistent during the winter months, Taghazout is insanely crowded. You know, you paddle out at any of the lineups there's going to be 30, 40, 50 people out a lot of the time. You know, if Anchors is really good, that's like the premier wave and the most famous wave in the area, so that's going to be absolutely packed. Because it only works on lower tides as well, people can only surf at specific times, condenses that crowd even further. It is a really long wave, but because it is quite forgiving, you know, it's not like really sucky and hollow all the time. People are often, you know, making sections. It's a relatively easy wave to surf, but that said, it can get really hollow and sick as well. And there's so many waves in the area, but I found last time I went there earlier this year, all of them were so crowded, like Banana Point, Anchor Point, Killers, Boilers. anywhere that was a spot was packed. So even if it was like 2-foot dribble, everyone's like, right, boilers, yeah, it's working. 30 people out. And then even like the beaches when it's small, like people go there and there's like 50 people. Yeah, it's pretty mad really. But I guess it's only a winter destination, so it's only really good for a few months. Like during the winter, that's when the biggest swells happen. Again, it's relatively cheap, and there are cheap flights from everywhere in Europe, so it makes it really accessible to a lot of people. You know, if anyone going for waves and some winter sun from Europe or further afield can get there quite cheap and quite easily. So I just want to quickly interrupt this video to let you know that I've just launched my surf travel consultancy service. So if you're planning a surf trip, whether you're unsure where to go based on your ability, or you're trying to score waves with the family in tow, I can help you make it happen. So if you jump onto a call with me, we can discuss recommended destinations, transport logistics, travel info, local insights to different places around the world, and I can basically help you take all of the stress and the uncertainty that comes with booking a surf trip. After our call, I'll summarize everything we've discussed in a personalized email tailored to your trip. I'll leave the link down in the description. For now, let's crack on with the video. Portugal in general, the surf scene there has exploded over the last 2 decades. It's now a very, very famous surf destination. You know, it's not just famous places like Nazaré, but places like Peniche and Ericeira, all the reefs and beaches around those areas are very, very crowded. Portuguese people love surfing. It's a huge sport there, like it is in Australia and Hawaii. Very passionate surfers, so it leads to a lot of aggression. Places like Coxas and Super Tubosh, those premier waves, you know, the locals are pretty dominant. They get amazing waves there, and obviously that's something to be respected, but travelers also want their little slice of it as well, so you've got a pretty chaotic scene a lot of the time. Portugal's pretty consistent, there's a lot of waves. Also at the more like user-friendly spots, there's so many surf camps and resorts and surf schools that descend on those lineups, so sometimes you rock up at, say, like Bali or Riviera in Ericeira. There's just like 100 people out, and many of them just like floating around on foamies. But yeah, again, you just kind of accept that for what it is. Either get amongst it or go surfing somewhere else. There's loads of other places that are lesser known that you can not go to the main spots. Sri Lanka has become, I guess, somewhat of a rising star in the surfing world. You know, a lot of people going there now. It's kind of had a pretty turbulent past, so that's obviously led to a slower growth as a surf destination than, say, like Bali, which, I mean, is kind of a good thing. So there's spots there that are really, really famous, and the waves there in Sri Lanka are like pretty mellow for most of the time. Like Aragon Bay is really easy to surf. The waves on the south coast are pretty mellow. It's not like heavy reef breaks or beaches. It's kind of easy to surf most of the time. And yeah, parts of it feel like how Bali was 20 years ago or so. You know, surf schools kind of dominating beginner-friendly breaks with dozens of learners in the water and on waves at once, while the more advanced spots are a bit more competitive as more experienced surfers arrive. Also, infrastructure is developing really fast, so these once quiet, like little surf fishing villages are now like bustling surf hubs, almost like mini Canggu sort of places popping up. Anywhere around Weligama, Midigama, Aragon Bay, you can expect to be surfing with a lot of people. Like a lot of places on this list, it's a really, really thriving surf nation, I guess. The people in Brazil absolutely love surfing. You know, Brazil's population, way north of 300 million, 7,000 kilometers of coastline. Much of it has really, really fun waves, and much of that 300 million plus population like surfing. So those two things combined lead to what you get in Brazil, which is really, really fun waves, definitely underrated waves, you know, way more powerful, punchy and more fun than you might think. And kind of like Australia, it's a very like beach lifestyle sort of place, you know, in places like Rio, Florianopolis, Sao Paulo, lots of people spending lots of time on the beach, and that sort of spills into the water with lots of people surfing, lots of people learning. When I was in Brazil though, I found the lineups actually to be like less aggressive than you might think. Like, although Brazilians have that, you know, bad reputation or whatever, I just found it way gnarlier in like Australia or Hawaii or Europe, like Portugal and like Canaries, way gnarlier than Brazil. Brazil was like mellow, and a lot of the time as well there's like long stretches of beachy, so most people will just surf on sort of like one bank or one corner of the beach where the shape's better, But you can walk like way down the beach and like surf more or less by yourself anywhere in Brazil, I reckon. But one of the gnarliest crowds I've seen is in Arpoador and Ipanema Beach, like the left that breaks off the headland there. It's right in the heart of Rio, so as you'd expect, it's like mental out there. It's so busy and people surfing on like SUPs, foamies, bodyboards, it's just like nuts. It's like you've got all those high rises on Ipanema, just so many people surfing, the waves are like kind of shit, and then you can see like Christ the Redeemer from the water, so it's a real unique place to surf, but not really one that I'd go and expect to have a fun time. It's no surprise really that the birthplace of surfing is crowded. You know, it's not just a surf destination. Surfing's sort of more than a sport there. It's got year-round warm water, wicked climate, waves on all sides of the island, and you know, the iconic breaks, Pipe, Waimea, Sunset, you know, people are going there to compete, shoot video parts, get the waves of their life basically. So yeah, because of this, you know, people take surfing very, very seriously there. So everywhere that you surf is going to be really crowded. Southern California, obviously the waves there are no secret. It's kind of like I guess it's one of the central hubs of surfing and where a lot of modern surfing sort of was born out of. So places like Malibu, Trestles, Huntington, all those places absolutely packed all the time. That sort of LA urban sprawl that just spreads out over all of Southern California. There's so many surfers there, there's lots of spots, people love surfing there, so everyone just living right there on the ocean with fun waves and a strong surfing culture. It's always going to be crowded. It seems like you basically can't go surfing anywhere in California without like at least 15, 20 people out at the same bank. But a lot of spots have like massive car parks at the back of the beach. The highway's just inland from the coast and they're just well mapped and well surfed and just easy to surf at. So obviously there's not much of a barrier to entry. But yeah, Trestles, one of the most painfully crowded. When I was watching the CT event the other day, I was like, oh my God, the waves are so good. Like what you would pay to surf that by yourself for a day or even a few hours, you know. But on a normal day, if the waves were like that, there'd be like 100 people out, and because it's pretty easy to surf, people don't really fall that often. So yeah, it's a pretty tricky one to get waves out there. That is my list of the most crowded surf destinations in the world. And if you go there with that in mind, it's going to be less disappointing. Kind of get your hustle on a little bit in these places whilst simultaneously giving respect to the locals. Otherwise, like I wouldn't go to these places, or at least I wouldn't go and bother surfing like the main spots. I'd go and try and find something to yourself, which can be done in basically all of them. So I'll leave that with you. Let me know your experience in some of these most crowded surf destinations. Yeah, for now, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you in the next episode.